Today we're going to be placing the LEGO Ideas Italian Riviera within the LEGO City. I think the first thing I need to do is remove all of the azure and dark azure odd-shaped plates that represent the water, because that is not going to be compatible with the water in our LEGO City. I didn't even feature the underside of this set within my review, but there it is, pretty cool with all of these different angles. Should be fairly easy to remove all of the water detail. Literally just going to peel these off here one by one and go from there. Simple as that. Some other elements came off with the water, such as these 2x16 plates, which were used to reinforce the bottom, but I'll simply just put those back on along with some other parts from my inventory to reinforce the bottom yet again. Some of the water was actually 2 plates tall, so what I have to do is just go in here with some 1x dark gray plate, replace that plate, and then reinforce it in the bottom with some of those 2x16s, and essentially just replace all of these strange, odd-shaped azure plates that are just weird shapes and sizes with rectangular plates so that we can integrate it within our LEGO City system. But before I do that, there's something else I need to take care of, and that is the removal of this goofy boat launch. It's only 4 studs wide, and it's in the middle of a cobblestone walkway. Who on earth is launching their boat right there? Nobody, because their boats most likely don't even fit. I have no idea why they added that to the set. It makes 0 sense, but it's going to be fairly easy to remove. You can see it's just held in by like 4 studs there, maybe an overlapping magenta plate on the bottom, but it'll be easy to extract. In fact, look at this. I just removed that 2x2 plate, and now when I remove this one here, it'll just come right off. I don't know why they would add this to the set, because I feel like most people are going to remove these, and now their sets are no longer original. So just seems like an unnecessary detail, sort of weird. Now I'm ready to reinforce the bottom here. So once again, here it is before. Just got to fill in some of those available studs. Just like that. And in addition to the boat launch and water, I also removed some of the colorful plate, just because after we removed the water, it was visible. And you don't want to see colorful plate. It should all be like wet stone, which of course is the dark gray. So I think this looks pretty good, but I was thinking to myself, we might want to change it a little bit because this is going to be placed at an angle. And if it's placed on a base plate at an angle, you're not going to be able to work detail into the cracks and crevices created right here because your studs aren't going to be aligned. So maybe what I could do is actually add 1 stud coming out from the bottom of it, so we have the ability of adding detail right up against the stonework. Because if I don't do that, I won't be able to do it. Because once again, it's going to be off the LEGO grid when it's placed, so it'll be impossible to add detail right up against that stone wall. Doing things like this is always guessing and testing and trying, right? I decided not to have that stud go all the way along because boats are still going to park here. So I've just got like a little cluster of rocks right there on the corner, in the interior corner as well to round that out, and then around the little stairs right there as well. I think that's a good mix, and if we need to add more when we place it, we can always do so. During my vlog, I was discussing the placement of this set. It could definitely go somewhere in the LEGO City, like on the canal by the Venetian houses, but I feel like these buildings really belong on an island. They sort of have that island feel to them for sure. It does require 48 studs to place just because it's quite a deep model, and it needs to be on the water, and I think it's more so something that would be like on the ocean rather than in a canal. So I think we have 2 different spots where it can go, either this corner here or this corner. And just for some reason, I think it's going to work better over here. And I can work it into the rockwork. So in order to do so, I'm going to have to destroy a lot of this rockwork here to sort of pull all of this apart and try and get it in this corner position. Time to blast away some of this rockwork here so we can accommodate this building. I am going to have to remove some of the rock work on the backside of the orange building, even though it's so cool, but that's going to allow it to slide underneath the mills plate on the raised section there. Also going to remove that corner there because I want to bring it to the right a little bit. So I've pretty much got to redo that whole bulge there just after the causeway. So essentially I just removed all of that rock work there, found a good home for it, and then locked it in place with some 2x2 bricks. What I like about this position here is it's, of course, in the corner. And also it aligns with the grid of the Lego quite nicely. Of course, not on this side here. That's why we added the additional stud coming off, because when we have water going underneath there, we won't be able to add slopes and stuff up against that stone wall. But when you look at this side here, you can see it's in line with the Lego grid. So we would be able to build rock work up to there to blend all of this in. And when we look at the grid over here, it is also aligned, so we'd be able to blend that in. So it looks like these are actually built on land. And it's also lined up back here. There is a slight angle just above our friend there with the ice cream cone, that being the crab. But I think this is where we will be able to connect it to land if I modify this staircase. And then we have another slight angle here. So this could all be in water. Now, in order to do this, I've got to rebuild all the rock work. And obviously I've got to make sure that this is exactly where I want it, because that is going to take a little bit of time. So once again, I put some 2x2 bricks down on the flat spots within the Lego grid. So now I know where this building is going to sit within the water. So the next thing I need to do is essentially rebuild the rock work. I am doing a large flat spot on the left side there, and then I'm just putting some colorful bricks behind those dark gray ones to reinforce it, and I'm building up using 2x4 and 2x6 dark gray brick. So it starts further out and then it tapers inward toward the building. So behind the building, that rock work is going to be quite vertical. But just like that, I've pretty much rebuilt the rock work on the left side there. And of course, this is just a base construction using the 2x brick. Now we've got to take care of the rocks on the right side. So I have one of those corner rock panels going inward, and then the rest is all brick built. And it does taper upward quite fast, so it is going to be quite the steep grade there. But I think it just makes the most sense to do that because it better fits the rock work on the edge of the buildings there. I do go around and throw some slopes down just to take away that staircase effect in some areas, but we've got so much rock work to do, so I'm probably going to save the majority of that for a later date. Now I want to work on the connection point between the cobblestone walkway and the mills plate on the raised platform. Because I positioned the building square with the Lego grid, I can just use a wedge plate and it's going to match the angle of the wedge plate found on the midsection of the staircase there. So I build up some of the rock work underneath up against the modular building, and then I use a wedge plate and it lines up perfectly with the pre-existing wedge plate. So the angles are just perfect. That was pretty satisfying. Now I need to go around and put some random stuff underneath the building just so it's fully supported. And that's just going to be one layer of plate that's topped with tile. I also want to start doing the water detail because I can't stand looking at that tab. We got to remember that this is all going to be water here. It's all going to have that underlying plate, which I'm taking care of right now. And then there's going to be tile on top. So I start with the dark azure going up against the building. I think that makes the most sense. I don't want to do the azure. I think it's too bright, and I only use that up against the sand and beaches, and that's where like the shallow water is. So I went dark azure, then blue, dark blue, and black. So I start by using the large pieces, and then I slowly but surely go down to the smaller elements. So I'm starting to use like 2x plate, 1x, corner plate, 1x2s, 1x1s. And then before you know it, it's all filled in with the underlying plate for our water detail. And now it just requires thousands and thousands and thousands of tiles. I'll probably save that for another day, but boy, oh boy, did that ever transform the look of these plates. Here we have the Italian Riviera placed in the Lego City. There's a closer look at that cobblestone staircase extension with the matching handrails, that being the harpoon element. After placing it, I did some more blending in behind it, just changed out some of those 16x16 plates to dark bluish gray from green, and I also blended in the seam on top of the rock work over here with 2 plates, and also some more brickwork over here up against the staircase. Of course, at this point, it doesn't connect to anything because there's no other structures here on the island. But one day we'll have this thing fully detailed and it'll make more sense and be cohesive with the island. We've got our causeway and then the rock work beside the causeway. The underlying plate for the water doesn't go up to that rock work because we still need to go around and detail all of this rock work, both on this side here and this side over here as well. There's a nice flat spot there. We'll be able to add some different stories and details and some critters, maybe some like crabs, vegetation, all that different type of stuff. And that goes for all the rock work all throughout and on the island. Something else we need to do to add detail to the island is go through and add over 28,000 1x2 trans light blue tiles to the water. I started doing that here. So you can see the water detail goes underneath the Italian Riviera. I think that works out quite nicely. And of course, I'm gonna wait to do all of the water tiling just because we need to add more details to the water. And I wanna make sure that water is consistently tiled all around the island. So I wanna do that all at once. Here's what the pad looks like underneath the building. Nothing too crazy, just some plates and tiles. There's the little staircase extension. And here's the rock work on the back, which was modified. Nothing too crazy, just removed those little panels that were pinned in place with the crab there, and also the dark tan and dark gray sloping, and just replaced it with some brick so that it matched up with the brickwork that we've done here. And when we go around and add slopes everywhere, we will be adding some slopes up against the building here as well. The structure is not tacked in place. It just sort of slots into place like so, and matches up seamlessly. At this point, the structure does look sort of random here because there's nothing around it, but I think once we get around to detailing all of this here, we could even potentially add more buildings like this so it doesn't look so random along the coastline and also in this section of the island. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to do some interesting things with the addition of this set. It sort of unlocks potential for the island, and I'm glad that we were able to place it here. Didn't want to make too many modifications to it. For example, we could have made the walkways here, which are quite narrow, wider, but then we're completely changing the set at that point. So I'm happy with just the slight modifications that we made that were, in my opinion, necessary to place it within our Lego city. It is sort of strange having it facing this way, but I think this was the best spot for it. And hey, it's a Lego city, so we got to have buildings facing pretty much all directions. I think it just makes the most sense. But there we go, everybody. The Italian Riviera is now placed in the Lego city. We still got lots of work to do in the surrounding area just to make it look not as random as it looks right now. I hope you enjoyed this update. Thank you so much for coming on by. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Have a great day. Bye for now.